There are few things in life that can truly bring us together. Few things that can lift us to our feet and bring us to our knees. Few things that can be analyzed, internalized, socialized, even spiritualized. It gives us identity. It gives us purpose. It makes us believe. There's nothing better. To the sickos, the diehards, the supporters, the hooligans, to the rowdiest, the most obsessed, the fans. For us and all those like us, it will always be sports over everything.
What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. As always, we broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Head on over to any one of their 24 branch locations or online 24/7 at truemark.com/PHLY to get started. That's right, as you saw in the intro today, we're kind of ushering in a new era of PHLY and All City with a slogan that we are affectionately terming sports over everything. We are really excited about the next step of PHLY, where we have the ability to unite Philadelphia, where we have the ability to unite the sports world, and talk about all of the good that Philadelphia sports brings this city. There's no sports city like Philadelphia in the world. You can mirror Boston, you can mirror Chicago, you can mirror New York. They are all excellent sports cities. And in fact, some of them are within our market, including Chicago, within our all-city market. But there is something special about Philadelphia. There is something unifying about Philadelphia sports, where it means more here, where it means everything here, where it's generational, where it is something that is passed down from family member to family member to family member. Where I talk about all the time, the installation of the love of this team in particular and this sport in particular by my father, that I hope to one day be able to pass on to my son, that was passed on to him by his father, my dad and his father, who was a Philadelphia A's fan. That's how far back this love of this sport and this now particular team goes. And this city's sports heritage goes. There's nothing like Philadelphia sports, and there's nothing like the community that Philadelphia sports has driven amongst us in Philadelphia. There is nothing like being at Citizens Bank Park. Forget in the postseason. It's nothing like being at Citizens Bank Park on a Tuesday in June when Kyle Schwarber hits a home run and the crowd rises as one in unison. When Zach Wheeler strikes out a batter with 2 outs and runners on the corners to keep the game in the Phillies' favor, a 2-1 lead, a 3-2 lead. There's nothing like Joan Duran entering the game to Flames and the Tarantula and having that knowing feeling that in just a few moments, you're all going to be rising as one with a Phillies victory. There's nothing like it. And I think you guys have been emblematic of that as a PHLY community and as a greater scale across this city. There is nothing like Philadelphia sports. It is the great unifier in this city. And when we talk about sports over everything, we mean in the most positive way possible that you are the reason we're here, that this city is the reason that we're able to do this and do what we love and cover the Phillies, the Eagles, the Sixers, the Flyers, college hoops, everything that Anthony does, everything that we do on the weekends, everything that we do here at PHLY is because of you. And so when as we usher in that new era of PHLY and of All City, this is a unique situation where we get to be a part of the greatest sports city in the world. And I say that as objectively as I possibly can, knowing that subjectivity is very much involved in everything that I say. This city is unlike any other. And while I B and C about the cold weather and about traffic patterns and about the fact that, it cost $1 bazillion to live, buy a home, all of those things. This city is unique because of all the good that it brings. And I think a lot of that stems from the continuity and unity that the city sports teams provide us. The Eagles are the great unifier across the entire calendar year, Super Bowl champions last year. The Phillies are a unique situation where summertime in Philadelphia, when the Phillies are good, is a great place to be because you have the opportunity to every night witness something incredible happen. Even when we B and C about no run support or poor managerial decisions, there is something incredibly beautiful about a summer in Philly when the Phillies are good at Citizens Bank Park. The Sixers have made us mad over the years. And yet now we look at them with the lens of, this is Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe's team. And what you get from Joel Embiid, that's just better and better and better. What you get from Paul George, that's better and better and better. We have new life breathed into the Sixers because of those two guys. And with the Flyers, you saw last night, what it means when the Flyers are good in this city is beyond words. You saw what we were able to view with Trevor Zegras, with the expletive-laden interview that he did after the game, basically saying, screw the Anaheim Ducks. This is where I want to be. And this is a city that wants you, Trevor. I 100% believe that. And all of that paired with the Union and our Big Five and our local sports teams throughout the area, throughout Bucks, Delaware County, Philadelphia, and beyond. I always say, the Delaware Valley is much larger than the area that it encompasses. And I think a lot of that is due in part to the sports here. So when we talk about sports over everything, that's what we're referring to. I love this city. I love you all. And I'm really excited to continue having these conversations about the Phillies and all of our sports teams here at PHLY. So here's what's coming up on the PHLY Phillies podcast today. We're going to talk about JT Realmuto's contract and why this thing continues to roll on. And if that means less likely or more likely that JT Realmuto is back and what it means for the rest of the offseason. I want to talk about the Athletics because they continue to shoot themselves in the foot with their trademark and their move to Vegas. This is a comical story that I don't think is going to have the ending that the A's are hoping for. Framber Valdez and Ranger Suarez connected to the New York Mets. Well, we talked about it a few weeks ago. It makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, but it's not going to make it suck any less if Rangers are Met next year. And we'll wrap things up with a Remember Me segment. Our Remember Me trivia is the category is based on JT Realmuto because that's where we're going to begin the conversation. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Ethan Hartley, you guys hanging out in the chat. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Let's get started on today's conversation. JT Realmuto's contract extension still has not been signed. And a couple weeks ago, when the Nationals traded for Harry Ford from the Seattle Mariners, I thought that was a signifier that the Phillies believed that they were going to bring JT Realmuto back. And I still think the most likely outcome is JT Realmuto re-signing with the Phillies. Now, for how many years and what's the money? That's a big holdup, and I think that's the discrepancy. And for me, if you could find a way to make this a 2-year deal, that would be beautiful. If you could find a way for this to be a 3-year deal, that's the area I would like to live in. But the reality is JT Realmuto and his camp probably want 4 years. And they probably want more money than what the Phillies are initially offering. And as Matt Gelb pointed out in his article from The Athletic, this is the quote. I thought this was excellently worded. The standoff between the two sides runs deeper. It's not acrimonious. It's two stubborn parties exercising their right to be stubborn. And that's kind of the crux of the conversation today, because JT and his camp are playing a waiting game because they know that they can, and because they know that they've earned it. Let's start with the earned portion of this for just a second. JT Realmuto, in my opinion, even if he's not the catcher that he once was unquestionably one of, if not the best catchers in baseball for quite some time, maybe the better part of a decade. And that is real and it's tangible. And when we have used the term BCIB, it's very much been referred to JT Realmuto for a very long time, even if he's not that anymore. that goes to Cal Raleigh. There's no question about that across baseball anymore. But for a long extended period of time, JT Realmuto was the best catcher in baseball. Since joining the Phillies, he has 305 extra base hits, including 165 doubles. And since joining the team back in 2019, he leads all catchers in these statistical categories. His 811 hits are first, 41 more than second place. His 165 doubles, 21 more than second place. His 19 triples are 9 more than Will Smith, 10 in second place. His runs scored, 441, are 28 more than Will Smith. He also leads all catchers in that time period in WAR, at-bats, plate appearances, and games played. There is no question about it. JT Realmuto has been the stalwart catcher in Major League Baseball for a very long time, even if that maybe has passed him by. He's also top 5 in home runs, RBI, and in average, and he's top 10 in on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. All of this is without getting into his pop time, his caught stealing numbers, what he does intangibly for the Phillies pitching staff. So all of this is put in together, and JT Realmuto knows, and his camp knows, that he has earned the right to be stubborn, just like Matt Gelb used that word in his article. The second portion of this is because he can. JT and his camp aren't stupid. They look around baseball and they know that there is a dearth of talent at the catcher position that is readily available to be signed or traded for. It's, especially with name recognition, JT Realmuto sits at the top pretty much alone in that portion of free agency. You think about guys like Victor Caratini and Jonah Heim, Christian Vasquez, Elias Diaz, Gary Sanchez. All of these guys do one thing well, but they don't do both. And even with diminishing numbers, JT is still, nominally especially, but still even statistically speaking, probably one of the best choices for the Phillies at the catcher position, especially one that doesn't require a trade. So JT effectively takes an old tactic and says, I'll dig in and wait for the Phillies to panic to start to envision what the future at the catching position looks like without me in the fold. Is it Rafael Marchand and Garrett Stubbs? Is it one of those guys that I just made mention of? Is it Ryan Jeffers or Tyler Stevenson or somebody that they would have to trade assets to acquire? JT looks at this and goes, I'm the easiest solution, and I still rank amongst one of the best solutions. So JT Realmuto and his camp look at it and go, we've earned this stubbornness and we can. And you put those two together, and I don't think he's going to balk at the low year, low money offer. I don't think he even balks at the middle ground. I think he says, you got to meet me 60-40, even though the Phillies probably don't want to do that. So because of all the things that JT has done in his tenure and his history as a player, plus knowing what he still does to be able to do as a pitch sequencer, what he does to work behind the scenes with the pitching staff, what he has in that battery rapport with those guys, Sanchez, Luzardo, Wheeler, Ranger before this past season, and some of the guys that we've seen make progressions in the bullpen as well. There's no question about it that JT has a hand in all of that. So now that we've gotten the why as to why this is happening out of the way, I ask for a little bit of forgiveness for my crudeness in this situation and what could be considered blatant disregard for everything that I just laid out. But can somebody explain to me how a catcher who's going to be 35 years old when the season begins has ground the entire offseason to a halt? I love JT Realmuto. I am appreciative of everything that JT did, and everything I just laid out to you tells you that JT has been one of the best catchers in baseball since his time as a member of the Phillies. And I'll even give concession to say that JT's offense this past season was not nearly as lifeless as some would like you to lead to believe. He is still, even with regression, and that regression probably continuing in 26 and beyond, one of the better hitting catchers in baseball. And in fact, there was a span in last season where JT drove the ball exceptionally well in the month of July. He hit .354 and had 9 of his 39 extra base hits. It was one of 2 months where JT drove in double-digit runs. But There was also a pocket in both May and September where he hit 205 in each of those months with a 275 and 282 on base percentage. And in September alone, a 274 slugging percentage. You see his numbers there on the screen from a year ago. He played 134 games. Even heading into his 35-year-old season, he is still one of the stalwart catchers who suits up time and time again, with the exception of last season or 2 seasons ago, where he was injured and played in 99 games. Here's what he's done with the Phillies since joining the team. 145 games, 134 games, 139 games, 135 games, and 134 games in full seasons. And in the 60-game season in 2020, he played 47 of those 60 games. I love JT Realmuto and everything that he has done. And you see on the screen there the numbers that he produced, not nearly as bad as what I think a lot of people would like for you to believe. But as it trends downward, that's where, to me, that stubbornness, you can only draw a line in the sand so far. JT Realmuto is extremely valuable to this team. There's no question about it. But I think he, at this point, and his camp at this point, are a little bit overinflating his value. And so I think these two sides, for the betterment of both, at least in terms of optically, me as a viewer, I think these two sides need to be able to meet a little bit more 50-50 than what JT and his camp is asking for. And if they don't, and this continues to drag on, I'm not saying that it is holding them up from signing Bo Bichette, or it was holding them up from signing Imai or Murakami, or heading into the rest of the offseason, Bellinger, Tucker. I still believe those guys are outside of the realm of possibility, even if it's something that we would love to see as fans. But the reality is, that year, that money for a year, that doubled up money basically, where they're paying $2 on every dollar over the luxury tax, only will exist for this 1 year. That doesn't mean that it's going away, but the allocation of funds becomes different because you are getting off of Taijuan Walker's contract. You are getting off of Nick Castellanos' contract. You're now no longer paying Matt Strahm $8 million. You will have Jose Alvarado's contract will come to an end. Arbitration, of course, will kick in, and guys will make more money next year than they do this year. But if it's a team that is willing to continue to push the luxury tax threshold, it's really only 1 year of eating big-time money, and then you can somewhat reset in 2027, assuming there's a season in 2027. Again, I don't think the Phillies end up signing one of the big-name free agents that are left, but it does frustrate me as a fan to look at this and say, it feels like a 35-year-old catcher is keeping the Phillies from doing everything else. Every other option that the Phillies are presented with, whether it be via the free agent market or the trade market, unless they are able to make the big swing, for example, getting a Hunter Goodman, which I don't think is plausible. I don't think Colorado wants to move him, but unless you're able to make the big swing at the catcher position, Goodman, Rushman type of swing, the likelihood is if you don't sign JT, the whole package, defensively, pop time, what he does with the pitching staff and offense put into play, you are going to take a step back at the catcher position. But if you're taking a slight step back at the catcher position to open up everything else, or at least open up one other thing else, then there is a chance that makes the Phillies lineup better. And so while I do still think the likeliest scenario that ends up happening is that the Phillies re-sign JT Realmuto, and the team that with the additions of Garcia, with the promotion, the likely promotion of Justin Crawford, with whatever right-handed bat, Randall Grichuk's name has come up quite a few times, with whatever right-handed bat platoons with Brandon Marsh, the team that is likely going to be the team that they break camp with. But I do find it frustrating that a 35-year-old catcher who is probably going to get his last multi-year contract this offseason is holding everything up becomes frustrating. Now, before we break, I want to welcome our second member of today's program into the show. That's our producer, our co-host, Ethan Hartley. Ethan, I kind of went full 180. I gave you all the good and then gave you how I felt. In radio, they would have told you, don't do that, do it the other way. But I set it up intentionally because I do still think There is a ton of inherent value in JT returning to the Phillies. But the timeline has gotten frustrating, and the years, and I don't know if it is going to end up being 3. I imagine he probably is asking for 4. I bet they settle on 3. But the 3 years and $15, $16, $17 million a season is kind of holding everything up until they get this thing figured out. That's where my frustration lies today.
Yeah, I 100% agree. At this point in the timeline of what is left to get a playoff caliber team on the field is starting to run out. I mean, we've seen this time and time again, especially when it comes to even finding pitching replacements and giving them enough time to get into rhythm and get on board for the season starts. We've seen pitchers hold out before in seasons prior. When they sign at the beginning of spring training or even opening day, they just totally fall off a cliff because they don't have that time. And, maybe they're doing their own stuff in the offseason, but it's just not enough then. So this really throws off rhythm in terms of other things that they need to be filled, even if, obviously JT's not a pitcher, but, maybe you can allocate that money elsewhere if there is no real sense that a deal can be done in a reasonable amount of time. The fact that it still takes this long shows that it is valued, but almost too much where the team isn't really being realistic at this point in time.
So Stephen Paul brings up the exact type of contract I would love. Is the 2-year club option year 3. JT's not signing that type of contract. I don't blame him for not signing that contract because of everything we laid out. He has the cachet to say that ain't happening. If you're going to give me 3 years, you got to guarantee me 3 years. But I don't think at 35, almost 36, he'll be 38, I believe, when a 3-year deal expires. I don't think he can justify saying, hey, I know my offensive productivity is not as bad as people want to scream into the oblivion, but it has gone in the wrong direction over the last couple of years. His just to give you an example of those numbers, he hit 12 home runs last year. That is the fewest as a Philly in a non-COVID shortened season. His 52 home runs was the second fewest as a Philly in a non-COVID shortened season. And last year, 2 years ago, I should say 2024, was the fewest. He had 47 RBI, but he only played 99 games. So in 35 more games this season, he only drove in 5 more runs. And the big thing to me is that the extra base hits aren't where they were a few seasons ago. For example, 2023, when he still was considered as a viable option as one of the best offensive catchers in baseball, he had 29 doubles. God, 29 triples would be an unbelievable season. 29 doubles, 5 triples, and 20 home runs. You put that together, 53 extra base hits. This past year, 39. That's 14 less extra base hits in 1 fewer game played. The extra base hit, for me, I never asked JT to be a 25 or 30 home run guy. That's just not who he is. He's only hit 25 once in his career. I'm not even asking JT to be a 20 home run hitter anymore because I just don't think that's him. If he's still a 15-ish home run hitter, the doubles need to be where it really comes into play. Like last year, he hit 26 doubles. That's right on par where he's been for much of his Phillies tenure. He had 36 his first season, but most of the time 25, 26, 28, 26. That's totally fine for me. The extra base hit numbers have gone down, though, because the home runs have gone down. The OBP is now down to 315, which is his second worst in any season as a Philly. The 384 slugging is the worst in any season as a Philly, and his 700 OPS is the worst in any season as a Philly. So while I do think there is still a lot of intangible stuff that means a lot for JT, plus what he does for pop time, caught stealing, all of those things, and he's a durable catcher, you look at those numbers and you go, if that's what we're doing now offensively, what's your 38 look like?
100%. When you're already seeing that little bit of a decline now and looking at it as age goes up and, more wear on your body again, like for how many games he plays, I mean, who knows how long that holds up. I mean, at any point we've seen guys that can just totally
and
drop off a cliff.
That's a different part of this conversation where I do think the Phillies at some point in the last few seasons probably needed to invest in the backup catcher position a little bit more to get him off his feet. I don't need him to catch 140 games anymore. 120 is still enough, but I'm not saying leave him out of the lineup for 42 games. Have him DH a time or two when Schwarber, Schwarber goes play left field, right? He does it 5-6 times a year. There's 5-6 times for him to DH. The conversation was always like, can he play first? Sure, he could. I don't think it's going to happen, but, a handful of times here and there gets him off his feet a little bit more. I think there's ways to get to that 130, 135, 140 mark. It just doesn't have to be 140 times behind the dish.
100%.
And not investing in the backup position by using Stubbs and using Marshawn has led to this having to be the case in his 34-year-old season where he caught 134 times.
Yeah. And
it's a lot of games played behind the plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, the lack of investment, I think, really shows. I think, there was always kind of the running joke that Stubbs is just the vibes guy. And every time he plays, it's like, what are we really doing? So, I mean, he got a long leash and maybe too long or maybe longer than it should have been. And now you're kind of seeing a little bit more of the consequences where there were opportunities beforehand to, get someone as more of a buy low candidate and let them see how they turn out. But, yeah, now it's even a much harder situation because now you're looking for a replacement as a starter if that is the case, if you really, really don't want to pay the money, which at this point would just be really detrimental, I think, to just let him walk.
So the question that Ray Schumacher posed was, do we have projections if Marshawn was the starting catcher? It's hard to project like how many games he would play, but the number, like the 162 game average on Baseball Reference, so he's not going to catch 162, but just to give you a frame of mind, over 162 games, he would have hit 14 home runs, driven in 51, hit 245, slugged 394, and had an OPS of 702. A lot of that right on par. I don't think he would come up to those numbers if he played 130 games or so. I think that it would be lesser than that in a lot of different categories. And then the batting average, 210, which is significantly lower than JT. To answer your question, that's like the best I can give you right off the cuff is the 162 average. I would imagine playing that over 130 probably tells you 10 home runs-ish, 42 RBI, and a 308 on-base percentage and a sub-400 slug. It doesn't get much better. He's good at pop time. He also has a good arm. Pop time's there amongst those lower qualified catchers, but that's the best I can give you, Ray, in that particular instance. All right, let's take a break. We're a little bit over time here. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. On the other side, we got to get into the conversation about the Mets being linked to our buddy Ranger Suarez. Makes sense, but we'll tell you why on the other side. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge, and we'll be right back after this. New year, new you, right? That's what they always say. And if you're thinking about that with your finances and you've been waiting to take an advantage of a great offer to boost your savings, that's where our friends at TrueMark Financial come into play. They are offering a limited 5-month certificate at 4.25% APY. And with a minimum deposit of just $500, it's super easy to get started. So whether you're thinking about a special goal, whether that's a vacation, or, maybe popping that question to a special somebody, or you're just thinking about your emergency fund or want smart ways to make sure that your money works just a little bit harder, this certificate is a great option. You can open your certificate today at TrueMark.com or by visiting any one of their 24 branch locations. Annual percentage yield is accurate as of 12/15/25 and is subject to change. Certificate requires a minimum deposit of $500. Federally insured by the NCUA. Visit TrueMark.com for full details. Again, visit TrueMark.com for full details today. Guys, let's be honest for a second. You get into your 30s, things start to get a little bit more difficult. Your workouts become harder. Your recovery time seems to take more time. So you start to do Google searches and figure out what's going on. Is it just because I'm getting older? And what keeps coming up? Well, potentially low T. And doctors, they act like TRT. It's no big deal. Just $3,000 for the rest of your life to shut down your natural production of testosterone forever. So if you want to head into the new year, turn back the clocks and make things easier for your body the natural way, that's where our friends at Mars Men come into play. They give you the same benefits of optimized testosterone, the energy, the strength, the focus, without shutting your body down. It's real natural ingredients, and it's like hitting the reset button on your body and your hormone factory instead of shutting it down entirely. So for a limited time, if you're interested, our listeners right now get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. Again, mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Ethan Hartley, you guys hanging out in the chat. Thanks so much for being a part of today's show. Just seeing the news. It's not official yet, but apparently the Chicago Cubs are progressing on a deal to acquire Marlins starter Edward Cabrera. Bob Nightingale reports that they have long coveted prized Cubs outfield prospect Owen Cassey. And I wonder if that maybe is the deciding factor on the deal. We talked about it a few weeks ago, Ethan, about the Cubs, like, what's the plan? Because they just seem like they don't want to spend any money. They act like a small market team. They're not, or they shouldn't be at least, but they seem like they don't want to spend any money. So instead, they go and potentially go to trade for Edward Cabrera, who had a really good season last year, 3.5 ERA, 150 strikeouts. A very good player, very good starter, no doubt. Stuff is really good. And I think, obviously, the big thing for them is the contract. He's got estimated $3.7 million this season, 2 years of arbitration after that, doesn't become a free agent until 2031. I understand in the Cubs' mind, they'd rather give up a prospect than spend the money. I personally would always rather spend money. But you know I'm not a big, like, if it takes a prospect to get a trade across, then trade the prospect. But if it's trade somebody or spend the money, I think you spend the money.
Right. Early on, they were linked to Framber, and now it just seems like there hasn't been
They
much
were linked
movement.
to Tatsuya Imai.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there hasn't been much movement on that, and now it just seems they're pivoting. Maybe the money is egregiously too high that, you know, those camps are asking for, and that could certainly be a possibility. But yeah, they seem like a team at this point. I mean, who knows with Tucker, but too talented to not just push it all in as much as you can. And
So
I mean, this just seems like a minimal move to move the line.
You know, right now the Cubs are paying 7 players double-digit $1 million. Dansby Swanson is making $28 million this season coming up. Shota Imanaga accepted the QO. He's at 22. Seiya Suzuki, 19. Ian Happ, 19. Jameson Tyone, 18. Matthew Boyd, 17. And Nico Horner is at 12. Now, for the Cubs, much like we were talking about with the Phillies with Walker and Castellanos, they do have a couple of guys who this is the final year of their deal. Ian Happ is on the final year of his deal. He's a free agent. There's been talks about the Cubs potentially trading Ian Happ to get off of that money and to get some prospects or whatever back. And then Jameson Tyone, who's 35 years old or will be 35 years old, that $18 million, even if he re-signs next year, he's not getting $18 million. So you know you're getting some money back. And then Matthew Boyd, who's getting 17 this year, there is a $15 million mutual option for 2027, or the Cubs could decline the mutual side of the option, pay him a $2 million buyout, and he's a free agent at the end of this year. So there is a scenario for the Cubs where Horner's at 12, he's a free agent. You would get 15 back from Boyd, that's 27, 18 from Tyone, that gets you to 35, 19 from Ian Happ gets you to 54. There's a real chance that the Cubs have $54 million free dollars next year. Much like the Phillies, when we were talking about the 1 year thing, you could absorb a 1 year balloon contract. Say, bleep it, we're paying the money for one season, knowing that a majority of that is going to be freed up in 2027. I understand that there is a potential impending lockout and strike or whatever you want to call it, but teams that were good last year, I would think would kind of go for broke in 2026, monetarily speaking, if there's a potential that 2027 gets disturbed by a potential shortening or lockout or strike or whatever it might be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it seems to me, I mean, outside of LA just dominating, there is kind of more of an open window to, again, kind of move your finances around and I think take chances on guys who, you know, might shorten up your contract and then you can kind of see going down the line. Or on the other hand, in what we don't know already, I mean, there might just be the real possibility that, you know, owners and front offices are looking at after this upcoming season and just like, you know, doom and gloom and it doesn't look good and we really don't want to spend the money because we have no idea what
sure
things are like.
The looming 2027 questions I totally understand, but we put this up the other day. There were odds that came out for win totals in 2027. The Cubs were first in the NL Central, but they were only a game better than the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Cubs were only at 88.5 wins. Acquiring Edward Cabrera makes you better. Spending more money also makes you better. I think the Cubs have a potential, because I do think there is a chance Milwaukee regresses. Although I've been saying that for 3 years, and they just tell me to go, kick rocks, and we're just going to continue to be one of the better teams in baseball. But I think the Reds are a good, not great team. The Pirates, I still think, even though they've spent some money, they stink. The Cardinals, I think, really stink. The Cubs could legitimately go in and win, 95 games with a couple of extra tweaks. I think they won, what'd they win last year? 92 or 93 wins last year. I think they have a very real chance to be 92 wins. They have a very real chance to be like a 93, 94, 95 win team. And getting Edward Cabrera would be a really good step in the right direction for them. But I do still think they should go out and spend some more money. All right, let's get into our Wawa Wednesday segment of the day here. And it is brought to you by our friends. It's the big deal Wawa Wednesday segment of the day. It's brought to you by our friends over at Wawa. Check out any Wawa right now. Get any Sizzly, hot or iced coffee, and a hash brown, just $5. Can't beat it. It's a great deal. I got it for breakfast like 2 days ago. I mean, it made me, I was full for basically the whole morning. Anyway, Buster Olney is reporting that currently the Mets are linked to both Framber Valdez and Ranger Suarez. And as much as it would suck to see Ranger in a Mets uniform, this does make a ton of sense. Can we take a look, Ethan, at their numbers from a season ago between Ranger Suarez and Framber Valdez? Both of these guys had really, really good seasons, both in the mid to low threes in terms of ERA. 12 wins for Ranger, 13 for Valdez. Valdez is an innings eater beyond belief, 192 innings pitched. We'll get to that in just a second. Career high in innings pitched for Ranger at 157 and a third. Both very respectable, 1.22 and 1.24 whips. Can be, twos in very serviceable rotations, can step up and pitch like ones when they need to from time to time. Both still in a decent spot in terms of age. I don't think either of them are going to regress all that much over the next couple of years, but it makes a lot of sense, even as much as it sucks to see Ranger paired with the New York Mets, that one of these two guys ends up signing with the team. Because last year, the Mets gave up 715 runs. Only the Toronto Blue Jays gave up more runs and made the postseason than the Mets did. They had 17 different pitchers start at least one game, 13 started multiple games, and 9 different guys made at least 5 starts. The most innings pitched by a Mets starter in 2025 was 168 and 2/3 by David Peterson. Only 3 starters made more than or pitched more than 100 innings. Peterson, Senga, and Holmes. And those 3 are also the only 3 on their staff to strike out at least 100 batters. Now, David Peterson's 5.62 innings pitched per start was the most on the team. And we talked about that stat in the summer where it was like the mid-July, early August thing where nobody outside of Peterson was getting out of the 5th inning for their staff for like a month and a half straight. So enter Framber Valdez and Ranger Suarez. Ranger averaged 6.09 innings pitched per start over 26 starts. Framber, 6.19 innings pitched over 31 starts this year. And when you think about Framber Valdez specifically, his 902 and the third innings pitched is the 5th most in Major League Baseball since 2021. And if you strictly pick the last 3 seasons, so 23, 24, and 25, his 566 innings pitched are second to only Logan Webb, who, by the way, Ethan, Logan Webb is at 61 more innings pitched than everybody else over the last 3 seasons.
Talk about an Iron Man.
All the dude does is go out and pitch, man. He also gave up the most hits in baseball last year, but he was really, really good still. So with these two guys, it makes a ton of sense. I've long said I thought Ranger was going to sign with the Baltimore Orioles, but the Mets make a ton of sense. Framber, to me, I think if the Mets are settling on one of these two guys, I think they end up settling on Framber Valdez. Just because of the ability to eat innings and be on the mound consistently year after year. Ranger does have a little bit of a history of injuries over the course of his career. Last year, obviously, didn't start the year, made 26 starts, which was the most of his career. And the 157 and a third innings is also the most of his career, but has missed time in the past due to injury, had a little bit of dead arm period in the second half of the season last year, rebounded really nicely, finished September strong, pitched well in the postseason. But I think if I were to say who I think the Mets were to target of these two, it would make sense that it would be Framber just because of the innings. wanted to get your thoughts on that one, Ethan. Between the two, from a Mets perspective, who do you think makes more sense?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think just in terms of needing guys who at least can go up there and eat innings, they have the hitters to compromise otherwise.
Right.
I think Framber makes a lot more sense for them in that case.
And in his instance, like, it's not like they're going to get a guy, one of those Chad innings eaters, right? This isn't a Brunson Arroyo situation. This isn't I'm trying to think who's been a kind of an innings eater over the last couple of years that hasn't been all that good. Well, like, I'll use Chris Bassett for an example. He's better than a innings eater, Chad type of pitcher. But 541 innings over the last 3 years. He's going to be 37 or 38.
Yeah.
But like, if you're looking for strictly innings, that's a guy you could sign.
Who was a guy a couple of years ago? He would always open games for the Marlins, and he was really bad.
Would open games for the Marlins? 2023?
A little older than that. I'm going to find out who this is.
Okay.
Because to me, that was always the guy who I would watch, and he'd give up the most home runs, but somehow he would just get second and third contracts and just keep walking out there and just losing them games. But he pitched a lot of innings.
Okay. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I mean, this guy wasn't very good, so I'm going to find it.
Okay.
But,
while you do that, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Mets to be interested in Ranger Suarez. It would suck. I'm not even going to pretend like it wouldn't. It would really suck to see Ranger Suarez in a Mets jersey. I think if you're going to pick the two, objectively speaking, if you want the most innings possible, specifically considering you're going to be relying on a lot of rookie arms. Noel McLean is still, rookie eligible. Jonah Tong's still rookie eligible. Especially considering, the guys that you brought in last year did not throw or returned, I should say, as well, with Sean Manaea in his case, did not pitch nearly as well or nearly as many innings as they did the year prior. I thought not re-signing Quintana was a bad decision by them last season. Came back to bite them. Griffin Canning was pitching well until his injury, but he had a pretty substantial injury, if I remember. Like, I don't even know if he's available to pitch.
I think he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, it was a pretty, I don't even know if he's ready to start the season, right?
Probably not.
But I think if you're looking for a guy who fits both bills of like, this guy is good, and Framber fits that bill, he is very good, keeps the ball on the ground at the better rates than almost anybody, and can give you 185, 190 innings a year. I think if we're doing this objectively and taking out that I love Ranger and I hope he's not a Met, Framber makes more sense for them.
100%.
All right, and that's our big deal segment of the day, our Wawa Wednesday. Again, get any Sizzly hot or iced coffee of any size and a hash brown for just $5. Stop on over to your local Wawa. As we know, you can find them pretty much everywhere. I have 3 in my hometown. But I love my Wawa. I'm there pretty much every day, and there's a reason that there's 3 in my hometown. It's because everybody's there every day. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get into this A's thing. We'll wrap the show up with some Remember Me trivia as well. That's based on JT Realmuto a little bit. I kind of stretching this a little bit. But it's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We'll be right back after this. Whether your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way to win with our friends at the BetParx online casino app. You can check out incredible new casino games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, which is a BetParx exclusive. It's just a small reason as to why it's the only app that I would ever use to play all of my favorite casino games right there in the palm of my hand. I can play blackjack, roulette, craps, slot, poker, baccarat, and so much more. And those hot online slots like Cash Eruption and 88 Fortune, or incredible slot games based on your favorite streaming shows like The Walking Dead, Squid Game, Peaky Blinders, and so much more. And how about this? Right now, new users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. So what you're going to do, head on over to betparx.com, download the app right now, and enjoy all of the action and the excitement right there at the casino, right there from your fingertips. You must be 21 and physically located in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParx. You love to play, you play to win, you bet, BetParx. Gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, so you found your special someone, that person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Now you know what the next question is. Well, before you even pop that question, you're going to have a million different questions about the perfect ring for your partner. That's where our friends at Bucci Jewelry and Design come into play, because you don't know, or maybe you don't know what the 5 C's are, how much money you're able to spend, what your budget is going to get you. It is a stressful experience. I've been there. That's why working with our friends Joe and Michelle at Bucci Jewelry and Design has been a game changer. They make the process seamless. They make you feel like family. You're not just a customer to them. You are one of one. They actually listen to you. They help you figure out what your partner is going to love, and then their team designs something completely custom right there in-house. There's no pressure. There's no pushy sales vibes. It's just good people who love what they do and do what they love. So next time you need that perfect piece, go see Joe and Michelle at Bucci's Jewelry and Design. 30 plus years in the game, voted Phillies #1 jeweler year after year. Over 1,000 5-star reviews. You can check them out at BucciJewelers.com and tell them that we here at PHLY sent you. PHLY Phillies podcast. Ethan, you thought of who it was?
Yeah, after raging about that ad break, I did figure out it was Jose Urena.
Okay.
Like all came in the league 2015 all the way up to 2020. What I meant by open
So he pitched
games,
last year, right?
Yeah, he pitched for 5 teams last year, and he's getting up there, as we were talking about, to the record, which is he's
pitched for 11 different teams.
Yeah, and only 2 of them for more than 1 year. Colorado in 2 years, and Miami for 6.
1 appearance with the Mets, 2 with the Dodgers, 4 with the Twins and Brewers, 5 with the... This shouldn't even count. There's got to be a minimum threshold. Like, this is... 7 of the 11 teams, he's pitched 6 appearances or less. This shouldn't even count.
But yeah, I just always remember... Like, what I meant by open games was, like, he would open the series against the Phillies, and he was just always bad.
Get shelled.
He'd get, like, 5 innings, and they would just leave him out there. And so I just always would watch and be like, why is this guy still on the mound? But, you know, he would always eat innings, as we had mentioned.
So, for comparison, the record is 14 teams. Edwin Jackson and Rich Hill have both pitched for 14 teams. Rich Hill, who has pitched since 1842 for the Cincinnati Red Stockings, has appeared for 14 teams, but 11 of those teams he's made double-digit appearances for. That's still a low threshold, but it's better than it being 4. 74 appearances for the Red Sox, 69 for the Dodgers, 64 for the Cubs, 63 for Cleveland, and then 22 or less for all of the other teams. And then for Edwin Jackson, who also pitched for 14 teams, 11 of his teams are 13 appearances or more. He made 80... And he started for a long time. I mean, he made 162 starts. Rich Hill's made 250 starts. Okay. I was going to say, it's 86 starts in the American League. I thought he'd only made 86 starts total. I'm like, that can't be right. All right, I want to get into this Ace thing, because I think this is extremely comical. We'll just do it for just a second, because I know we're very quickly running out of time. Did you see this headline, Ethan, that the U.S. Patent Trademark Office is denying Las Vegas Athletics trademark because it's geographically descriptive? So what it means, the refusal was issued at the end of December, and the earlier decision was reaffirmed by the Patent Office. And basically what they're saying is, because they're called the Athletics, it's too vague. You could basically say, like athletics, obviously another word for sports or endeavors or activities, right? You could basically say, like, all sports in Las Vegas are technically athletics, like tests of strength and athletic endurance and sporting events. So because they're called the Athletics, they are... the examining attorney noted that athletics are defined as, quote, activities such as sports, exercise, and games that require physical skill and stamina. And as a result, the USPTO found the marks merely describe a professional sports team and not name the professional sports team. So because their name is the Athletics, they're being denied patent and trademark in the city of Vegas for Las Vegas Athletics and Vegas Athletics.
Which is very comical at this point because of how frowned upon this entire move is. And,
John Fisher's a loser.
Yeah, and like he absolutely totally deserves this. But on the other hand, like, what happened for the 120 years?
That's their argument, is the franchise is arguing that they have had multiple existing trademarks incorporating athletics over the years. Remember, they were the Philadelphia Athletics for a 50-year period. They were in Kansas City for, I think, about 25 years. They were in Oakland for over 40 years. And so they're pointing to, hey, we're one of the longest tenured franchises in baseball. We've been the Athletics the entire time. Why is this a problem now?
Exactly, and this is federal. So even when they've moved around from city to city, it didn't matter when applying those trademarks until now for what they describe as too vague, which is very comical in its own sense. And again, I do laugh at this because this move is very frowned upon in general, and I don't like it one bit, but it does make no sense. And
so
are they
after their argument, the USPTO says this is from the article, was unpersuaded, concluding that the marks were, quote, so highly descriptive that the applicant's burden of establishing acquired distinctiveness is commensurately high and requires more evidence. The U.S. Patent Office told the A's to go kick rocks.
Yeah.
And I think it's hysterical.
Maybe whoever wrote that is an A's fan and said, I don't want you to do this,
Yeah.
so I'm giving it the thumbs down.
After following up on this, apparently there is a bar in Oakland, and the bar is called oh my God, Last Dive Bar. So they have been very vocal about the A's not moving out of Oakland. They staged walk-ins, which were basically like, remember when they had like booming attendance for like 2 or 3 games?
They said, no, everyone go to this game.
Right.
Yeah.
And the attendance shot from like 8,000 to like 40,000 overnight.
Yeah.
So they staged these like walk-ins basically. And so they tweeted 22 hours ago, said, here at Last Dive Bar, we support athletics. Athletics belong in all communities. So we're relaunching a t-shirt we did when we filed for the trademark before anyone else did. They are taking shots at the organization. This bar hates the A's and loves the A's, hates the ownership.
Yeah.
And this is just a comical situation that is going on.
This is pure gold as it has gone on for years.
Let me ask you a question. 3 scenarios. What do you think the most likely is? The U.S. Patent Office eventually gives up and gives the A's the trademark they're looking for. The A's change their name, or they don't end up moving to Vegas.
So where does like construction stand at this? I mean,
In terms of like a stadium?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my first question in what is most likely. I think if they have started construction, I can imagine that they're not willing to budge, and they're going to do everything they can to get in Vegas one way or another.
Right.
I would presume if that is
I
the
think
case,
that's the least likely scenario, is that they end up not playing somewhere other than Vegas.
Yeah, for how long they've dragged us out, saying we're going to play 3 years in Sacramento in a AAA ballpark, to line all that up, I think it'd be like a catastrophic failure, and John Fisher would be laughed out of Major League Baseball if he failed that move. In which case, other
We've
teams
seen forced sales before. That might be one of them.
Yeah, that you just totally fumble this entire process. It's not like there's a giant dome around Las Vegas and you can't get in. Like the
Was
Raiders,
this the Simpsons?
Yeah, like the Raiders did it, right? Like you're clearly capable, and no one's not allowing you to do so. It's just the fact that you're so bad at doing this. And to Stephen Paul's comment, and this was another thought I had, that it is. I could very much see that they bridge the name of just Las Vegas Baseball Club,
like the Mammoth did before they were the Mammoth.
Yeah,
I think so. Frank Barber brings it up. I think the likeliest scenario is that they end up buying the patent.
Yeah.
From who has it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be way more money than it should be for buying a patent.
I mean, yeah.
Because I don't think you're going to uproot a franchise that has been called the Athletics for 125 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 125th season of Athletics baseball. There's no way they're going to let that name slide. And I don't think they're leaving Vegas. And I also don't think the U.S. Patent Office is here to play games. They're not going to budge on this. Yeah. I think the likeliest scenario, I guess, is mystery door number 4, is they end up having to buy the patent away from this bar.
Which, I don't know. I really hope they don't.
I hope the bar tells them to, forget it.
Yeah. I hope it becomes to a point where there is no amount of money that would ever make them say yes. I would love to see that. I think that goes against so many values that we're all built on. Las Vegas Cozy Boys, that's a funny one. But yeah, that would just be awesome. I think that'd be my favorite one. All
right, let's break on the other side. We're going to get into our Remember Me segment. We got a little bit of overtime to do. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We'll be right back after this. All right, picture this, your dream setup for a fan cave. Have your friends over, watch some games, and it's all thanks to our friends at Ashley. That can be real by giving away a $2,500 Ashley Furniture gift card and a $1,000 Jordan Spector art gift card. So go big on a sectional and level up your walls with incredible Philly sports art at the same time. Visit ashleyfancave.com, check eligibility, fill out the form, and you're entered. It's that simple. Enter now, and you might be watching the next big game in a fan cave built by you, courtesy of Ashley. Do you really want one of your starting pitchers pinch hitting in a big spot? Of course you don't. It's not worth the risk, the time, or the money. You want to keep your stars focused on what they do best. And the same can be said for your business. You don't want your top people buried in operations, the tedious, time-consuming, redundant activities that not only take their time away, but also wear them down. You want to make sure your impact players stay fresh and focused on what they do best. That's where our friends at Togo come in. They're an integrated part of your team that take the work off your starter's plate so they can focus on making your company and your business move forward. Every engagement starts with free process mapping and engineering, and there is not a dime billed to you until the real work begins. And with each Togo program, they include a dedicated staff, custom automation, and a US-based process engineer team who act as your quarterback while you stay in control. At Togo, they turn your playbook into performance. You call the shots, they execute your way, and they advise along the journey. Visit harnesstogo.com to scale smarter, work faster, and stay focused on winning. All right, picture this, your dream setup for a fan cave. Have your friends over, watch some games, and it's all thanks to our friends at Ashley. That can be real by giving away a $2,500 Ashley Furniture gift card and a $1,000 Jordan Spector art gift card. So go big on a sectional and level up your walls with incredible Philly sports art at the same time. Visit ashleyfancave.com, check eligibility, fill out the form, and you're entered. It's that simple. Enter now, and you might be watching the next big game in a fan cave built by you, courtesy of Ashley. Let's finish things up here. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Ethan Hartley here. You guys hanging out in the chat. It is our Wednesday edition of Remember Me here on the PHLY Phillies pod. And we talked a lot about JT Realmuto today, so I wanted to take a look at some other catchers who made all-star games over the years, but not your Yadier Molinas, not your Jorge Posadas, not the ones that immediately jump out to you and you say, yeah, that's a guy that I, obviously remember. He was a legitimate, everyday catcher for years. No, these are guys that had very good seasons and even sometimes very long and pretty good careers, but maybe they're not the first guys that jump out to you. So, Ethan, that's our category today, is former all-star catchers of the 2010s. And let's jump into it with our first Remember Me player of the day. This is a 12-year MLB veteran who played with 3 different teams. He was a 4-time All-Star and also a 2-time Gold Glove winner. And in 2007, he was the 5th overall pick out of Georgia Tech.
When was the last year he played?
The last year that he played, I want to say it was probably like 2021. 2020 was his final season.
Okay, COVID. So pre-COVID catcher.
His last full year as a starter was 2017.
Okay.
And he was a backup for a couple years.
Okay. Who was that team? 2017.
That he was a starter on?
Yeah.
He was with the Nationals for a few years. But he was not an all-star with the Nationals. The team he was with prior was where he made all 4 of his all-star appearances.
Some guesses in chat. Paul Loduca?
It is not Paul Loduca. It's a good guess. Loduca played with the Dodgers, though. This guy did not play with the Dodgers.
Matt Wieters?
It is, in fact, Matt Wieters.
Nice.
4-time All-Star with the Baltimore Orioles. 2011 and 2012, 2014, 2016. Back-to-back Gold Gloves in 2011 and 2012. A handful of 20 home run seasons. There was a time where this guy was like, top 5 catcher in baseball over that like early 2010 period. 3 straight years of 20 home runs, back-to-back Gold Gloves. This is Matt Wieters. Good pull by you, Chris Lem.
Nice.
All right, let's get to number 2. This is a 13-year vet who played with 4 different teams. He was a 2-time All-Star and was also a 2016 World Series champion. And one of his claims to fame was he gave up 7 stolen bases in one game, then proceeded to blame it on his starter, who was too slow in getting to the plate, and then immediately was DFA'd.
Oh. What team?
He was with the Cubs when he did that.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, 2016 World Series champ was with the Cubs for that team as well. But I don't believe was there kind of split time that year. If I remember correctly, they kind of went catcher by committee. The Cubs did that season for a while. Was their starter in terms of games played? David Ross caught a bit. Wilson Contreras caught a bit that year. Was not an all-star with the Cubs, though. Was an all-star twice on his previous team.
Broad Street Bully says Montero.
This is Miguel Montero. Yeah, good pull, Broad Street Bullies. Was a two-time all-star with the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2011 and 2014. Got a couple votes in the MVP voting a couple years, but not serious, like 30 and 20. All right, before we get to the number 3, let's say thank you to all of our viewers on our streaming platforms, Roku, Samsung, Xfinity. Head on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. We're officially in overtime. And good pull. Miguel Montero had a 13-year career. I did not realize he played that long. But yes, good pull. Broad Street Bullies, that is Miguel Montero. Let's get to number 3, our third Remember Me. You guys are 2 for 2. This is a 12-year vet who played with 4 teams. He was a one-time All-Star and was a 2013 World Series champ. He had 8 seasons with 30 or more home runs.
Wow.
Sorry, that should say 20 or more home runs. I apologize. 8 seasons with 20 or more home runs, not 30.
Last year.
His last year was 2017.
Oh, that'll be a little harder. I don't know. Chat's been on fire. I
was once traded for Vernon Wells.
Now I'm trying to focus on who Vernon Wells is.
No, I think Posey made more. Posey probably made, I'd say 5 or 6 All-Star games. 7.
Wow, yeah.
This guy really was only a catcher up until about 2012 and then transitioned to being a first baseman.
Oh.
Started his career with the Angels, but I would say was most well known for his time after LA.
Rich says Mike Napoli.
It's Mike Napoli, yes.
Napoli?
36 home runs with the Texas Rangers.
Wow.
34 home runs with Cleveland, 30 home runs with the Texas Rangers. He was a 2012 All-Star. He had 24 home runs. 2012 All-Star hit 227. But yes, this was Mike Napoli. Good pull, chat. 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Well done on the chat on the Remember Me game today by the chat. Really, really well done. Was with the Red Sox and Texas, and then had that 1 year in Cleveland towards the end of his career, where he hit 34 home runs and drove in 101 at 34 years old. That's not suspicious. That's not weird. Just all of a sudden found your power again? Sure you did. Good season, bud.
Summer of a lot of weights.
Really hit the gym that offseason. Anyway, big thanks to all you guys playing in the chat. That's going to wrap up today's PHLY Phillies podcast. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here throughout the show. Big thank you to Ethan Hartley for producing and co-hosting today's show. PHLY Eagle show is coming up next at 2 o'clock. Then later this afternoon, the PHLY Flyers are live at 4. And the Sixers pregame show at 6:30, followed by the postgame show 10 minutes after the end. And a special joint cheap seats show live and local just down the street. Here we have Love City, and then a little bit further down, they are hanging out with the City Pigeons podcast as well. They're going to do a joint podcast show live and local with Love City tending. So if you're in the area, come on by, say hello to BG and E-Rock and Ashworth and all those guys for our cheap seats. We'll be back on Friday for the next edition of the PHLY Phillies podcast, live at noon to wrap things up for the week. Until that time, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy the nicer weather that we're supposed to have this week, especially if it doesn't rain and it stays warm. And we'll be back on Friday at noon for the next edition of the PHLY Phillies podcast. Talk to you then. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.